Dr. Reza, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Victor, for having me. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on. I know we're already just having some great convos right before even getting started here, and you got a book out, In Control. I can't wait to talk about that. And for my listeners, they know already how I work. I get right into things. I don't waste time. So we got some good stuff. I can't wait to get into. But before
Sure.
we do, how'd you get into what you're doing today? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so the journey of myself has started as because when I was in my early 20s, I started as a junior management consultant. So all the way I was working with a number of organizations, serving many companies. But one thing I had that it was I had this opportunity to always work with the companies that you go inside, you see two leaders in the same organizations. One of them is like an average performer, and the other one is like ultra high performer. So I could always see the contrast between these people. And this whole journey of In Control got started when I was not very similar to many of the other authors out there, where if you see, like, most of the authors always start their book with saying, like, I've gone through this massive trauma, I have gone through these problems, divorce, loss of the loved one, and then I transform my life. So that's how the stories get very you can resonate with the story very well. But I wasn't like that. I was having a great job. I would have a very lovely family. Everything was perfect. Like, I would say, anything that I was doing, it was in a really, really good situation. Until I met some people who are in an extra level higher than me, meaning that, they are living an extraordinary life. So I started this journey of interviewing some of these top leaders or ultra high performers. I asked them, like, so what drives you to reach to that point? And the conclusion was that all these people are pretty much in control of their life and career. And when I say in control of life and their career, this is how you can actually tick it, whether are you living an in control life or not. Number one is, do you love what you do? Which many people, they love it. The second one is that, do you love who are you doing it with? Which is your colleagues, your subordinate, your boss, whoever that you're doing the whole life and career with. And do you love who are you doing it for? It means your customers, your stakeholders, the company, the country, and all. And finally, do you love how are you doing it? It means when you do it, how long you do it, and where you do it. So then I noticed that all of them, they have in common these four questions. And it means that they're living an in control life. And you know what? The past 2 years has been a journey to put it down on a book and make a system around it.
I love that. And you bring up some stuff that it's something in my own programs that I do. I always talk about how, like how do we get to that level? How do we, be on fire? And I always say, well, you have to be on fire. You have to be incongruent what you love to do because there's emotions and all this other stuff that follows it. And it just sounds like those individuals do that because they're loving what they do, right? And every aspect. I love how you had the four questions. It wasn't like, hey, do you just love what you do? Yeah, I love what I do. Okay, great. That's the answer. No, it was like here, 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 and here in different elements to answer those and to see if they do. And if they do, then it's like, yeah, what resistance do they have, right? What things are holding to create that the chaos or the disturbance or the distractions to pull them away from having that ultra successful life?
Yep. And you see, what's interesting, Victor, is that most people, they do have some of these elements, but they don't have all of them. And the question that often I will get is that people say, like, is it really possible for anyone actually to get to such point? The answer is yes, of course, but it doesn't happen by accident. It's an intentional process. It means that you're pursuing that journey. Even if you ask me right now, am I living such a life and career? The answer is no, of course, because it's a progressive journey. So you have to kind of like tick, 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 tick. It's like a scoreboard, until you reach to that point. It's a pursuing of that kind of like ideal situation.
You bring up a good point. Do you ever get to a point though when you feel like, yes, I'm there?
At some point, yes. And you have to really work on it. It's like, for example, somebody asked me, like, do you love your wife? So, yeah, of course, I love my wife. Do you love her all the time at the same level? The answer is no. You get into fights, you will have. So it's an ongoing journey. You can't say like, okay, I already reached the point of like living an in control life. All right, I can just like free and easy do whatever I want. So it just fall apart. It's ongoing things.
I love how you bring up the love thing because I talked about it years ago in relationships. I'm like, you don't always love your spouse, your partner, your wife, your husband, whatever. And they're like, no, I always do. I'm like, BS. I'm like, next time you're very frustrated and you want to kill them, ask yourself that question. Do I really love them at this moment? And I'm like, that's being more authentic.
At that moment, that's the point.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, we all go through that. No, I love that because it's really, the aspects for me. And the reason why I asked you that question is because I know for myself, I talk a lot about this where, everyone's like, this is more of a Matthew McConaughey thing, an actor. And he talked about when he won his award in 2015, he said, someone asked him, who's your hero? And he really thought about it after a while. And he's like, it's me 10 years. And then when he got there, he was like, who's your hero? And he's like, I'm not even close to my hero. It's another 10 years. And so that's where my mindset goes is like, there's things I'm like, will I ever be satisfied? And I think in some point in life, you have to find a point where you're like, because if you don't, you're always chasing and you'll always have, like, you'll never be like there's a point where you want to continue to grow. But it's like, what I mean by satisfied is like, hey, I'm good where I am, but I just love what I do. Like, I'm good. I can stop, but I still love what I do. And I think but that also comes back to what we were just talking about, where the whole loving what you do, people you're around with, and all those kind of things.
Yeah. What's something very interesting, Victor, here is that a lot of people are talking about like reaching work-life balance, right? Which we all know that is almost like an impossible thing. And especially what happened during the COVID, so now people start to realize that, hey, work-life balance is a total nonsense thing because you're trying to separate the work and the life. So what's the pursuing is about work-life harmony. It means that when you love what you do, you don't really care, am I really in my work zone or am I in my life zone? So you're not trying to separate these two. It's kind of like a marriage that when you enjoy the people that you spend time with, you enjoy what you do and enjoy how you're doing it, it really doesn't matter, So you have already reached that harmony, and that's beautiful. When you have reached there, that you're not struggling and nobody need to convince you to stay motivated or something.
No, not at all. I love how you bring that up. That's something I'm really big on is like, how do you, because you never want to separate. You always want to keep because it's like some people say you have your professional hat and then you have your personal. And I was like, when I was first getting into chiropractic and, learning from a lot of the greats and listening to a ton of people, I was always like, that's separation though. I'm like, that's not me being me. Like, how can I be me all the time? Right. And then work on, and it wasn't easy because sometimes it's like, I got to work on this on my personal side. I don't want to show that on my work side because then I may come off a certain way. So let me clear it up here, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm more congruent, something along those lines. But it's funny how you bring that up because it's one thing you can't. Work-life balance is more about just where can you put your energy all the time because it's always changing, right? Sometimes you may have to put more focus on work. Sometimes you may have to put focus on the personal, right? Things come up. There's demands of what you may have to serve. But at the end of the day, the goal is try to just keep that energy always like in a circle. So it's always staying in good balance. Guess good balance for the lack of better words, or harmony. To keep it better in harmony.
Harmony is a better word. Like, just now you mentioned about the energy, right? So work-life balance is mostly about time management. So you're saying to people like, okay, 9 to 5, I do this. And then 6 after that, I'm just going to enjoy my life, right? But work-life harmony is more of like energy management. Is where you put the energy there, and that is beautiful. You see, the biggest realization that I have, I think I first learned this one from Zig Ziglar. When I was in my early 20s, I attended one of his seminars. I think he said something very interesting. He said most people, they complain about lack of time, which is not really true. It's a lack of direction. It means like, where do you put your energy on? So if you put your energy in a wrong or what we call that stupid activities, you always feel like you're wasted, and you reach to the end of the day, you have done a lot, but you feel like I have done nothing. So that's where like, energy management and work-life harmony is like really close to each other.
No, this is, I'm gelling with you, man. That's what I speak all day. It's something that people just need to understand more of, because it's like sometimes even with energy management, it's like knowing where I guess I'm at a point in my life now where before I was very strict routines, right? Like, this is what I do. This is how I knock things out. And I'd be very focused and very centered on what I did. But now I'm coming to a place where it's like, you don't have to be rigid. Sometimes I need to do this, or sometimes I'm in a place, like I'm writing my third book right now. And there's times where I'm like, I'm in a really good place to write right now. I'm going to take advantage of this. Well, I got all these things to do. That's going to have to wait. I'm in a great place to write. And then all of a sudden I'll write like 2 chapters, like nothing within a couple hours. And I'm like, sweet. And then when I try to routine it,
I know.
sometimes I'm like, oh man, I'm struggling to get a chapter out. I can't even, I'm 3 hours in and I'm only halfway through. And it's like, this has been teaching me in the last few years, like, stop being rigid. Now, I don't know if that's good advice, bad advice, but it's one of those things where I'm like, it's learning how to be in that flow and just learning how to just take, but that's kind of where I'm at in my life. Like just going, where am I at? Where, and it's not about how you feel. Like sometimes people say, don't go by how you feel because you'll never do anything, or you'll just be very chaotic. And I'm like, the feeling I'm talking about is an energy. It's an intuition. It's like, hey, this is what I feel. This is where my energy is going, that I'm being attracted to. Let me dive into that.
Sure. Yeah, that's really true. That's really true. This is like, you're emphasizing on like how our priorities change through time. So like how people's driver change, So one of the very funny things that I always like when I'm talking to some of the leaders, they're always asking like, I'm looking for a motivational speaker to get to my team. I really want to motivate them. I know what I always tell them is like, motivation is really like a crap. If you're working with the high performing people, they will tell you like motivation really is a crap. It means that it's like taking a shower. You take a shower in the morning, you take a shower in the evening. It's just that long, But when people find what is their driver, they can actually do it all day. And, for some people, what always ask me is like, so how do you find your driver? The answer is this. You just ask yourself, what is the one thing or one person that you are not willing to sacrifice it for anything else in the world right now? So like, for example, if you ask me right now the same questions, I would say my 2 sons, so my sons now is my driver. So whenever I feel down, whenever I feel like my energy is not in the place, right? Frankly speaking, Victor, I just need to spend about an hour with them and I'm good to go. And I'm very, very good to go. Yeah. But if you ask me, like, has it been your driver all the time? The answer is no. If you ask me like 7-8 years ago, it was a different thing. And if you ask me like 2 years from now, it could be a different thing. It's because our drivers just keep on changing. So the way to keep your energy up is to first find out what's your driver.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. I mean, it's motivation is doing something, getting external energy or whatever, or drive to do something you don't want to do. Where you're talking about inspiration, where it's in spirit, it comes from within you.
Got it.
That's infinite. You never run out of energy. You never run out of that.
That's
so
true.
let's talk a little about. We were talking about the 3. I think there was the 3 pillars or the 3 elements of your book that you guys broke down. Love to dive into that. Let's talk to me. Tell me a little bit about the essence of the book, and we, if you don't mind diving into those things.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the book basically starts in a systematic way. And when I say the word system, this is a lesson I learned many years ago from this guy by the name of Bob Burke. He said, system can help an ordinary person achieve an extraordinary result predictably. It means that you can actually predict the result. And it doesn't matter whether are you talented, you're smart, you're good looking or what, right? So it doesn't really matter. It applies on everybody. So the center of InControl system, it starts with the consciousness. It starts with an awareness, meaning that you come to these realizations that, hey, there is such a life exists to be in control of my life and career. And what does that mean to be conscious about it? When you come to these realizations that, hey, you need to take full responsibility for the things that you can control, and you stop apologizing or use it as an apology for the things that you can't control. As simple as that. And it applies to every aspect of our life. It's simply to any topic you talk about it, you can say, okay, I'm in control of this. I'm not in control of this, right? So now you're conscious about this. Then we have 3 cornerstones. So that's the core. We have 3 cornerstones that without them, life just simply loses its meaning. The first one is contentment, which is all about happiness, because it doesn't matter what you do. If you're not happy about it, it's nonsense, right? We don't want to do something that it doesn't make us happy at the end of the day. The second one is conversion, which is growth. It means that although you are not making a lot of money, at least you're growing, you're getting better day by day. So there is this growth mindset things is always appear there. And the third cornerstone is what we call it as consistency. And that is something that I'm sure even when I was listening to some of your works, right, you emphasize a lot on discipline, and if you don't have discipline, nothing will happen. Nobody can write books without discipline. You know that how much discipline you require in order to get it out. So these three, it's a cornerstone of the system. It means that without them, the whole system is keep on falling apart, right? You're not happy, you're not growing, and you're not consistent. That's why we call them as a three cornerstone. Then we are 12 pillars that we are talking in the book itself. It starts from some of them, which is related to your work, some of them related to your life, which I'm not going to go through all 12, but just roughly, if I want to tell you, like those that is related to our life, we talk about like cash, we talk about condition, we talk about character, communication. Then some of them is purely related to your work, like cooperation, communication, what we call companion, what we call that, contribution. So we have like 12 of them that under each one of them, of course, there are so many things, so many hacks and lessons that we are sharing with them. But generally, that's the structure of the whole system. There's a core, three cornerstone, and the pillars, which for every one of us at the different stages of life, we might need to work on different pillars. So one of the things that I explained in the beginning of the book is that you decide. So there is an assessment for you to go through. So once you go through the assessment, you decide where you want to start, because it's impossible somebody to take care of all these pillars and corner and the core and cornerstone. But the most important part is that once you become aware that this is going to be like an interesting journey, it's a growth journey, then everything is start to come together, just nicely.
I love that. That's awesome. And I love the different elements you bring to it too, like the 12 different, how you explain that in life and so forth. When it comes to then, you mentioned growth a lot, and I like this because we were talking a little bit about this before we got on too, about like growth mindset, letting things go. Why, how do individuals handle, when it comes to ultra successful, when it comes to something that they experience in their life, that may be a bad experience or something negative, or we look at it as something low vibration or however you want to call it. What are things that they do or to help them individuals to continue to thrive? Whereas some other individuals, when they go through something like this, it decimates them. It just, they get rigid, they condition, and then they put themselves in a box thinking, well, this is what happened, and I've seen it happen here again. This is just what my destiny is. I guess this is not it. So what can an individual do with those kind of experiences?
Sure. Victor, have you watched the movie called The Mask of Zorro? Do you remember that movie?
Isn't there a couple versions of it? I remember the original one with the black, and he had the black little thing on. I mean, yeah, I think it was like in the 60s or something. I remember the original.
Okay, not that far. Not that. But
then there's another one with
Tony Banderas.
Yes, Antonio Banderas. Yes, that's the one I was thinking of when you first said it. Yep.
Yes, the Catherine Zeta-Jones and all, right? So there is a scene in a movie that the Hopkins is trying to teach Banderas about the Zorro circle, or they call it as a circle of control. Yeah. So it's if you go and watch the movie one more time with this intention that I'm setting up here, is that he explained about something very interesting about the Zorro circle, the circle of control. He said that you can only get out of this circle once you learn these skill sets, then only you can move out. So the way the regret and the past experiences in our life work, it exactly works like a Zorro circle. There is an inside part of it, which we call it as the circle of control. It means that you have full control of how to deal with that. And there is an outer layer, which is the circle of concern, and you have no control over that. Let's say, for example, it's a loss of the loved one. You be worried about it, you be unhappy about it. What does being unhappy about it even help you? Nothing. You have been upset about it for a while. It just doesn't work. I have met a client, Victor. This is a true story, a few months ago. The guy has a trust issue. can't trust anybody. Like, so they have like extreme high turnover in the company simply because people can't stay there. The guy doesn't trust anything. He micromanage everybody from C-suite goes all the way down. I met him. I asked him, like, why you can't trust your team? He said, I've been cheated about 20 years ago by someone and I just can't let it go. I said, but you have to let it go because otherwise it's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Why not you give the guy just a call and tell him that I let it go? He said, I can't. I said, why not? He said, the guy died.
Man.
Can you imagine, Victor? Can you imagine? You are holding grudges on someone and let it ruin your day when the person is dead, man. So I said, okay, look here. Let me help you. I know what to do with this. So he said, okay. Don't tell me forgive, forget fast. I know that formula and it just doesn't work. I say, you know what? I am 100% agree with you. Forgive, forget fast is a total nonsense. I have never seen anyone who forgive and forget very fast. They said, I forgive and forget you, but actually they don't. So what is the mechanism behind it? So there are 3 steps that people need to go in order to let go of something. But I will explain exactly what is the meaning of let go. The first step is that if you want to let go of something, you have to remove all the reminders. Anything around you that reminds you about that person or that thing or that experience. So you have gone through a bad relationship, let's say, or you have gone through a divorce, a loss of the loved one. If you keep on putting all those things around you, do you think you can actually let it go? Because what you see is what you leave, right? So everything around you is kind of like keep on reminding you about that thing. So the first step is to put everything aside. Put them aside even for a while. Just put them aside. I'm not even asking people to go and burn the things like, some people, they say like, go and burn it, throw it at the ashes on the ocean or whatever. Okay, these are all nonsense. Yeah, so that's the first step. The second step to go for it is to stop talking about it. This is where the things a bit getting harder because a lot of people, when you tell them to stop talking about it, you know what they will say? But that makes me feel good. I say, yeah, it makes you feel good. You know what is that? It's like you are having a wound on your body, on your skin, right? And then the wound is healing, is getting dry. Every time you scratch it, it feels so good, right? It feels good at the moment, but you know what? You are basically refreshing the whole wound. It never gets healed if you keep touching it. So therefore, that's why they always say when you are with someone, take care of your mouth. I'm not saying that don't talk to anybody. In fact, I always encourage people to see, for example, some professionals in that area, like talk to a therapist, someone who are expert in that area, counselor. But once you have already done those talking, you don't have to go around and talk to another 1,000 people because it just makes you feel good. So that's the second step. The third step is the hardest one. Stop thinking about it, which is easy to say, hard to do. Why? Because now you need to be conscious about it. It means that, how does it work when you are alone driving and then suddenly those bad memories come to your head and it becomes like a Netflix series. You go through the whole things. And then by the time you reach to the end of it, you're already fully depressed, So this is the very important part. This is where the consciousness comes in. It means that the moment the memories comes to you, we have to intentionally stop it. We call it change the channel. So you just like distract yourself, call someone and talk about something else, play music, or sometimes you just can shake your head, say like, I don't want to talk, I don't want to think about it, I don't want to think about it. And you just distract yourself. That's why they say you cannot have a negative mouth and a negative mind and a positive life. These 3 doesn't go together. So it's very important actually to go through that. So here's the bottom line. The bottom line here is this, Victor. When you remove all the reminders, when you don't think about it, and when you don't talk about it, you know what will happen? You become a stronger person. It means that the goal is not to forgive, forget fast. The goal is for me to get stronger so that it doesn't hurt me anymore. Otherwise, if you ask someone to forgive and forget, frankly speaking, every time you're going through especially bad experiences, There is a new neural pathways has already created in your brain. You can't let it go. It's impossible. But you know what? When you don't go back to that neural path, the neural path is getting smaller and smaller. And after a while, it just doesn't bother you anymore. So now you can talk about that bad experience and you don't feel the pain.
So true in so many ways. I love how you break that down, because it is one of those things, the reminders is always going to keep that fresh in your mind. And you brought up the neural stuff. It's going to easily excite those neurons and it's all going to stay connected. Once you break through that barrier, then you have the talking side, right? Same thing. It's again, all neurology at the end of the day. And then I love how you're like, change the channel when you think, because that's where you're like, well, okay, you can trick your brain, right? Your brain like, hey, it's not around. I don't talk about it anymore. Thumbs up. But in your inner dialogue, you always have it going on until you say, hey, gotta stop this. And then eventually over time, like you said, it just totally loses its energy. You lose the attachment to it, the energy to it. And then eventually it's like, you have freedom. Now you're not held back anymore. Just like the gentleman who had trust issues, right? He's never going to have success at all. Well, at least with a team perspective, because he's like, well, I'll just work on my own then. Heck with all those.
That's true.
Love that. I'm going to take a step back here. I want to go back to the 3 cornerstones to talk a little bit about. So when we talk about in control, can people control their happiness?
You see, when it comes to happiness, it really depends on how do you define happiness, because different people, they have a different definition of it. You see, in the book, generally we talk about happiness by looking at it from longevity factors. Like, so are you looking for something which is instant happiness? And so you want to have an instant happiness. It's something that, okay, just go and, watch some movies, have a comedy show or whatever, and you can just make yourself happy. But that kind of happiness will just last for a very, very short period of time. There are certain type of happiness, which is medium range. It means that, for example, like doing something that, it gives you some excitement. Like for some people, they say, oh, you know what? Every time I do exercise, it makes me feel good for at least, a day or two. I feel good. I do meditation. I would be fine for the whole day. But if you're really looking for a formula for a long-term happiness, it only comes when you find your passion. So when you're finding your real passion in life, that is where exactly the long happiness comes in. And there are many ways to find your passion, but I think the best one, which I personally use it in my own personal life, is Ikigai. So that's one of the best way to do it. Are you familiar with Ikigai, Victor?
No, but I love if you can share it with us, me and the listeners.
So Ikigai is a secret recipe of living a happy, long life. That's like, it's a Japanese method, which started in this city in Japan, if I'm not mistaken, Ogimi. It's in Okinawa, Japan. So they went there, they found these people that actually all of them, they are centenarian. Like 80% of the population in that city are centenarian. They live more than 100 years and they just don't die, That doesn't even die by accident. So they were like curious, like what's wrong with these guys? Why they live so long, And then they did a massive study about it and they found like there's so many health factors there, but there is one thing that stand out among all of them, and that was Ikigai. So if this is a very long story if I want to go through it, but if you want to know what is your Ikigai, you just need to ask yourself these 4 questions. This is the simplest I can explain it. So the first question is you just ask yourself, what do you love to do? What do you love to do? Something that, when you do it, you enter to the flow, and then you lost track of time and so on. So there are so many answers that you can talk about that. The second questions that they ask is that what is one thing that you are very, very good at it? It means that when you do it and people listen to it or look at you, they say like, man, you're good. You do this so well, right? And then you're like, okay, thank you. So it means that it's not only about you, it is also about other people see it as your strength. So that's the second one. Now, here's where the things get exciting, Victor. The third question is that, so who needs your gift? It means, who is your customer? Because like sometimes people say, oh, I love to sleep, but who is your customer at the end of the day? Nobody wants your sleeping, right? So what happened? The first 2 questions, it's kind of like a hobby. Yeah. So now when it comes to the third and fourth questions, this is where things gets very exciting. The third question is that, so who is your customer? Who needs that gift? And the fourth question is that, how are you going to make money out of this? I just love it. It just connects the passion and profession together, right? So most people, they know what is their hobby. They know what is what they love to do and what people think they are good, but it's not their day-to-day job, So what happened is that you say, oh, I love to do, for example, painting. But then what do you do in your life, in your day-to-day job? Oh, I'm an auditor. So you see, what they love to do and what people say you're very good at it is very different with the sources of the making money and all those stuff. So now here's where the Ikigai comes. They say Ikigai is the center of these four questions. So that's where the real happiness fall. So the reason these people, they managed to live such a happy and long life was all because of this masterpiece called Ikigai, which, we talk about it in details in the book, how exactly you can find your Ikigai. But it all fall back to these four questions. What do you love to do? What are you very good at? Who needs that gift? And who is your customer? And how are you going to make money out of it?
I love that. I mean, because it's really like, one of the things I always share is when I'm working with someone and they're trying to figure out, like, I don't know what I love to do. And I'll say, what would you do for free that you just you can never get bored with? You'll just do for free if you could. Oh, there's this, or I would do this. I just enjoy it. Great. And then I love how you go from there to the element of what to do. And what was the second one again? I'm going blank right now.
What are you very good at? It means that
so your gifts,
acknowledge it. Yes.
Yeah. Because I always say the second thing I'll share is like, what comes easy to you? What stuff that you can just grasp really quick? Like it's just, you don't have to spend much time with it.
Yes.
And I'm like, those are
naturally,
right? And I'm like, those are usually your gifts. And so then I just love that. Because you ever hear of a book? It's a little different though, I think, but it's the same concept in a way, called The Blue Zones.
Blue Zone. No, I haven't.
So The Blue Zones is a book that looks at longevity in the essence of people who live to the highest population of 100 plus, but it's not just getting to 100. It's living at 100 and enjoying life. And they study people from Okinawa.
And they're still in a good shape. Yeah.
Good
shape.
And what they wanted to know what led them to that stage of their life. And one of the things out of the book is they studied people from Italy. I'm going blank. What is the island? I'm going Sardinia. And
Sardinia. I think now that you're explaining, actually, I think I haven't read the book, but I know about that study as well. Yeah.
So they looked at everybody and they kind of went through it. And long story short, they found out that one of the things was a drive and purpose. There's other magics too. Like they all had their own food, a certain food or a certain something they had, and
like
all these other
things.
But you brought up something that I'm just tying together where they talked about purpose and having this purpose. Like some of them would say, being with my grandkids gave me a whole nother purpose in my 60s and 70s.
The drivers.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And it gave them a reason to continue to move forward and continue to live. Even if they had an ache or a pain, it's like, I don't care. I get to see that little one and be with them and be a part of their life. I'm golden.
Yeah. Just like this morning, I was talking to this gentleman by the name of Dr. Ron Kaiser. So he's the author of this book called Rejuvenating. Okay, it's a very new word. It's a word that actually he trademarked himself. And you know what, Victor? He is 84 years old, and he's still practicing. And he's an author as well. And when I was talking to him, I was like, that what is the opposite side of this rejuvenating? Meaning that okay, let me say what exactly is the definition of it. Living a life with enthusiasm. Okay. So he said the opposite side of it, which he himself, if you meet him, he looks pretty good. He looks pretty awesome, at the age of 84. And then he said the opposite side of that is that people actually decline. People just decline. Can you imagine you live 80 years old and you are like crippled, you can't walk, you can't like do anything. I mean, seriously, man, if I'm at that age and if I'm not in a good shape, I will just like give up on myself already. So I was asking him like, so what should I do so that I don't get to that point? Or at least when I get to that point, I'm in good shape, So he got like all of like items that you need to do in order to build it up.
I mean, it's one of those things where I know for me, that's one of my passions got into health is just when you see people now talk about when you get older, right? You're going to have these issues. When you get older, watch, you'll see when you get to my age, you'll see when you get here. And I'm always like, not going to happen.
I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. Yeah.
Because when you focus on your health now, you're actually investing to have better health in your future.
Correct. Exactly.
And you know who Tony Horton is?
No, I don't.
No, he's a fitness guy. He's been around for years. He did P90X and all these other ones. And it's funny. I have a system where he is a coach in the program. This guy's 63 years old, not 80, but he's 63. He kicks my butt at 63. Oh, wow. And I'm 38. Right. And I look and I'm like, that's my like.
We are same age.
yeah. So I look at him and I'm like, man, this 63-year-old's whooping me today. I'm like, that's good, man. I love it. Bring it on. Because then I'm like, that inspires me to look forward to have that. And you got to have that kind of looking forward in that process.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you realize that you need to take care of your health, it's a big thing by itself. This is another consciousness that, unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't have it, you know. So we always like talk about this example that whenever you enter into any airplane, so they give these safety instructions, right? So they always say like, you know, when I can't recall exactly what they say, but they say like, you know, when the oxygen and the pressure is down in the cabin. So if you have someone under your care, so what you need to do, you pull the mask, you put it on the other person first, then you put it on yourself. Is that correct, Victor?
The other way around.
The other way around. Very good. So they say like, put it on yourself first, then only you take care of the person next to you. And it looks very selfish when you first listen to it, right? It's like, hey, how dare you say like that? It's my kid. I have to take care of them first. They said, nope. If anything happened to you, you are also part of the problem. So when I first know the reason behind it, it was amazing. I mean, that's amazing. If, you know, a lot of people, they don't really take care of their health. They're just waiting for something happen to them. Then only they come to that realization that, when the doctor tell you that, hey, you know what? One more of this heart attack, I will see you in the graveyard, you know, or if you have just came a little bit earlier, I would have a much better chance to help you. So I hope everyone actually like take it very, very seriously. That's why this, we call it condition, you know, in the book, which is one of the very important pillar that unfortunately a lot of people take it for granted.
Because the thing, and I'm bringing this up only because you got the book called InControl, and it's like one of those things where you can't have control of your health. And it's one of those things where the research is the more research that's coming out showing we actually have even more control than we think. And so it's one of those concepts. But I know I'm getting a little off topic from here, but it's just one of those elements of, you know, in control. What else can we have for control and so forth, right? I love it. This has been a blast. Dr. Reza, how can people find you, connect with you, and you know, get your book? Where is it located, and see what you're up to and all the things that you do?
Sure. So I'm very active in almost like all the social medias, but mostly would be like on Instagram and LinkedIn. But also the book itself is available almost in all the platforms from Amazon, Book Depository, wherever people are. So we are in like about 34 platforms. And my website also is rezaabraham.com. So I travel extensively. I mean, now, of course, it's lesser, but we still travel a lot. So we have our workshops all around the world. We do. So yeah, we would love to, but social media is always the fastest way. And I'm very responsive in my social media as well.
Awesome. Doc, it was a pleasure. I love what you're talking about, what you're up to, and all that you're doing. I appreciate you taking time to share with all of us here at the Mindful Experiment.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Victor.